Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Joshua Suliruka here, your host of the Impact Podcast Show. And before I start, I would like to state two things, just very simple. The first thing I want to do, fam, is I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to those that are listening to, this episode either through Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But I also would like to say thank you to those who are watching this podcast episode through our YouTube channel. So if you guys are watching this through our YouTube channel, make sure you guys like this video. If you are receiving some value, comment your thoughts. If you guys got any thoughts, anything, any questions, please comment down below your questions or thoughts. But most importantly, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on that bell button for the latest updates to our next video. And so that's the first thing I wanted to say. But the second thing I want to do, fam, is I'd like to state our mission. And our mission is simple. Our mission is to focus on impacting the one. And so, fam, if you guys are being impacted by this podcast, I encourage you to share this around to someone else that could potentially benefit from this. Because remember, it only takes one person to change someone's life, and that could possibly be you, and that will be cool. But other than that, fam, before I introduce our next special guest on the Impact Podcast Show, I do want to say thank you to everyone that have been waiting patiently for our next podcast episode. For the past 2 to 3 weeks, we've just been going through a major restructure within our podcast show, and so I want to say thank you all for waiting patiently. And if you guys want to know more information or any updates on what's happening within the next few months or so in terms of our podcast show, make sure you guys go to our Instagram page and I'll check our latest video where I share to you guys a bit about the updates. I just wanted to kind of bring a bit of clarity for those out there that have been real curious as to knowing where is the Impact Podcast Show going, and that would be cool. But other than that, let's get straight into it. We've got our special guest on the other side. Now, guys, I just want to give you guys a bit of a just a brief story as to how I actually met. We actually haven't met. This is actually the first time we're talking here, but I'll give you guys a story as to how we actually connected. And so it was actually crazy. For the past few weeks, we haven't actually been doing any podcast episodes simply because we're going through a major restructure. And so, with this man over here, I pretty much just jumped onto Instagram, where I jumped onto the Impact Podcast Show, and I seen him in our request list of the messages. And so I popped on through and I seen this man over here, and he actually just, was courageous enough to ask and say, "Hey man, you looking for a special guest?" And crazy enough, we were. Right, crazy enough, we were at that time, and I said, "You know what? Let's get him on." And so this is going to be something new. I don't really know much about him, but we will. Right, we will by the end of this. I feel like now we're strangers, but at the end of this, we'll probably be brothers. That's what happens in every podcast that I do. So I'm excited. I'm energized, and you guys get to. I'm going to get to know a bit more about who our special guest is, but I know that you guys are going to be impacted by his story and about what he what he does. And so, guys, I'd love you all, to please welcome to the Impact Podcast Show, Anver Meunier. Is that how you say it?
Anver Meunier, bro.
Meunier. Anver Meunier. Hey.
Good, bro.
It's all right. I love making mistakes. Why? Because it means I'm trying. But hey, man, welcome to the Impact Podcast Show, my man.
Thanks, my brother. Thanks. Good to be here, man.
Yeah, sweet. So, hey, man, before we get into this, into the, you sharing your story and also talking a bit about what you do, can you kind of introduce, yourself? I know that there's going to be people in your following list, on your social media that are going to be following you. That are on this Impact Podcast Show right now, but we do have an Impact community that are tuning into this too, and they may not really know a bit about who you are. And so, is there any chance that you can possibly share a bit about who you are?
100%, of course. Hey guys, so I'm Anver Meunier, performance coach up here in Melbourne. So I work a lot in online coaching, but I also do a lot of in-person stuff as well. I think we're going to go more into my story later on, but just to introduce myself, that's what I do. Just help people step into their purpose, go after their dreams, and just start on their dream business. So that's a massive thing that I do. And I'm honored to be on this podcast, and looking forward to sharing a lot of value with you guys today.
Yeah, sweet, man. And I already know, man, just based on, your Instagram, I was checking through your Instagram, bro, and there's a lot of, added value out there. And so, guys, if you guys are wanting to, have some motivation or any inspiration, man, make sure you guys check out his Instagram. He'll mention that later on into this podcast episode. And so, Yeah, man, I just wanted to, get you on here. I know that, you end up asking, me if we can jump on. I'm like, bro, I'm actually so keen. I'm all about connecting with people. And most importantly, man, I'm all about stories. I'm all about getting people's story out there. And I'm really excited to hear more about your story too, man. And so I guess, bro, the first question I want to ask, man, just to get straight into it, man, is, bro, could you kind of share a bit about your upbringing? How it was for you growing up?
Yeah. And that's a big thing that I share, because I think it's so important. That's where a lot of people's subconscious conditioning and who they are right now and or their actions, and it comes from how you were raised and your upbringing. So a big thing about me, man, is like growing up, especially specifically primary school, but my younger ages as well. Really never felt like I was good enough, man. That was a big part of my identity of who I was. Didn't really felt like I belonged. Never felt good enough. Always felt like I needed to prove myself or do things extra in order to, just prove myself and put myself out there. But a big part of me was never felt like I was good enough. But I was always into, sports being a part of like community sports, and that was just a big part of what I was into. Sports. I was a very energetic kid. So sports, soccer, rugby, and then later got into boxing as well. But yeah, just really anything to really build myself. But I really clinged on to movement sports and things like that, man. Yeah, man, that's a big part of my childhood, was not feeling good enough. And I think that's kind of like why I'm a coach right now. But that was a big part of my childhood, my brother. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sweet, man, bro. I appreciate you, man, sharing about that. And even that, man, just, being straight out there and being vulnerable and just sharing that, like you weren't, I feel like you weren't the person that you are now back when you were young. Is that something that you can vouch for?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Even from high school, I would say. I think you were talking about earlier years, but even from high school, big difference. Like when I talk to people from high school and they see me now doing my thing, they're like, "Oh man, you've changed." And 100%. There was a big transformation from even from 18, 17 to where I'm at now, 23 years old. So a big transformation, which is a good thing. But yeah, even through high school, didn't feel like I was good enough, man. No confidence, shy kid, short kid, and just really stepped up. And that was a big part of my identity as a kid, but also during high school, man.
Yeah, nah, bro. Thank you so much, man, for sharing, sharing about that. Because what we're gonna do for those out there that are tuning into this podcast episode is, one thing that I believe in is before the glory, there's always a story. And you're like, I feel like, Anver's actually on here, right? Simply in the fact that, he's getting his wins. He's getting not just the big wins, but also the small wins. And so, like, I love that. I love the fact that I get to have people like, Anver on the podcast episode where he's going to share his story. And I guess also the breakthrough. He's going to be sharing the breakthrough on how he ended up becoming the man that he is today. And so, man, I think, just to get straight into, knowing a bit more about your story, can you kind of share a bit about your family? Like, a bit about your upbringing with your family?
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. So, again, that's another big thing as well. Environment, family, the closest environment around you, the people around you and closest to you. Growing up, wasn't really close with my dad. And so now I think it was about midway through high school, I would say, mom and dad split up. Dad went his own way, and then my mom was the one that kind of raised me. And then also my sister as well. So just me, my sister, and my mom, and it's been that way for years and years. So yeah, man, like family for me, extremely important. But there's also difficulty there as well, with that close relationship. But yeah, never really close with my dad, and kind of split our ways, and like he did his own thing. I'm stuttering already. He did his own thing. He went and traveled and worked in other countries, and then so it was my mum that raised me, man, and she's a very strong, strong single mum that raised me, and very strong, independent woman. And she's had so much growth, which really inspired me as well. But she had so much growth in the last 10 years, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy, bro. That is so crazy, man. Because I think one thing that we can relate to is not just struggles, right? It's not the
Yeah.
struggles, right, that we can relate to, but it's actually, being fatherless kids,
Mm.
and for people out there that are tuning in, like for the impact community, they already know, what I've actually chosen to do. Like my heart is to help the fatherless out, right? Like people like ourselves, people like ourselves that are, broken and like, bro, I know that that's something that you can relate to, man, is, not having that father figure, in your life, pretty much the majority of your life, man. And so,
Hmm.
how's that been, bro? Like, how has it been for you? Like, not actually having, like your father around. How's that been for you?
That's a good question, man. That's a good question because a part of what I do is really helping men step into masculinity. But and in saying that, I didn't have my dad around, so I had to do a lot of growth myself, but also find other figures in my life to be mentors and coach me and help me grow in different areas. So for me, it was kind of like reaching out for that for those mentors, and specifically in what I wanted to do. Like in the earlier years, it was a close uncle of mine where, it was a bit more tough work, concreting work, so very tough work. And then I realized that I didn't want to do that, but I learned a lot in terms of, building that toughness, and really found out what hard work is. You know what I mean? And what like a lot of society, like working 9 to 5, hard work, the grind. I really found out like what hard work is through that. So, yeah, that I definitely found different father figures in my life. I would say I don't think I've ever said that, but yeah, definitely found different father figures in my life. But also, it became where I looked at where I wanted to be in the future, and I looked at like the guy that I wanted to be, and I looked like what was the closest kind of mentor that had that life, had good money, had financial freedom, built the dream business, and I'm like, that's the person who I want to be around. That's the person that I want to get, that I want to learn from, that I want to get mentored by, and yeah, and that was heavily into personal development, which was awesome. So, but yeah, that definitely makes a difference to because I didn't have that father figure close. I really had to learn things by myself, and my mum did her part, and she tried to do everything, but I really had to grow and make mistakes. So I would say in the last 5 years, yeah, 5 6 years, or even more than that, but more specifically in the last 6 years, has been massive growth.
Mm.
And I'm going to share more about why I say in the last 5 6 years, but it's been massive growth because I kept hitting a brick wall, man. Like, I made so many mistakes. Yeah, you're laughing. I'm
Yeah,
sure you can
bro.
relate. In the
Yeah, legit.
entrepreneurship world, yeah. And because I was holding on to a lot of limiting beliefs, I was holding on to a lot of things that were holding me back in my conditioning, my subconscious, and I kept, hitting that brick wall, and that inconsistency, that up and down. And it's
Mm.
always like that with entrepreneurship. But the more you can, uh, well, it was like a fly or something. But the more you can judge yourself less and understand that failure is a big part of micro failure, I should say, is a big part of success, but also a big part of entrepreneurship. And and any entrepreneur like knows that. Any person that owns a business, a coach, they know that it's a big part of success, having those small those failures, right? As opposed to giving up, but having those micro failures on the way to achieving your goal. But yeah, I forgot what the question was, but I think I answered it. But yeah, man, yeah. So for me, I would say I just remembered. For me, I would say it helped me. It helped me even more, and I just became responsible, and I owned where I was at all those years ago, and that's how I was able to grow and actually
Mm.
understand that if I want to grow, if I want to change my life, I've got to own where I'm at, and I have to make those steps, and I have to reach out, get those mentors that I need help from. I understand that I need help, so I've got to reach out. But I also got to make those steps and execute on the game plan, and just stay consistent and keep working hard no matter what on my dreams. So yeah, I think that's what I learned to really help to reach out for those father figures, and people to help me out, but also doing a lot of work on myself at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, sweet, man, bro. This is amazing, man. I know straight away that this is going to be a really good podcast episode. Why, bro? Because like, bro, we're talking about things that I believe that are under surface. You know what I mean? They're not on surface of where we're gonna get deep, man. And I feel like it's
I
gonna
love
be a
that.
breakthrough for someone else. And it was funny, man. Like during this week, I got a question. Someone asked me this question and saying, "Oh, how can I push through the pain? How can I push through the pain? How can I push through the struggle?" And I pretty much just said, just know that the pain that you're going through right now, right? The pain that you're suffering, the pain that you're enduring through is going to be a breakthrough for someone else, right? Because you're going to be sharing the story to them and saying, "Hey, I broke through," and certain things like that. And bro, that's pretty much what we're going to do right here, right?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
You said that. So I want to interrupt you there. You said that, mate. It's like, one of my mentors, my coaches, like he always says it and states it, and this is kind of stay with me for a long time as well. It's like, if you ever watch a movie, the character always goes through struggle. You can imagine if everything was just good all the time, there was just everything just went their own way. No one watched that fucking movie.
Hard.
Movie. You know what I mean? So there has to be the up and downs and the overcome of adversity, because no matter what you do in life, there's going to be adversity, and challenges, adversity. There's going to be pain, and like I see my view of it in a different way. I think I'll talk about it later on, but I think it's an important thing, man.
Yeah, no, 100%, man, and like I think that's one thing that I love doing when it comes to the podcasting is that I get to talk to someone like yourself or any other special guest, and man, the one thing that's different than any other podcast is, man, I love going deep, bro. Like, if we're not going to go deep, man, it's just like the story, as you were saying, going through the highs and lows. Like, man, why just talk about the good? Let's talk about the bad. Let's talk about the failures that we made, because as I said at the start, like I'd rather fail, right? I'd rather fail and then try. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather try and then fail as opposed to me not trying and not knowing whether or not I was successful or failed, if that makes sense. And so, bro, let's get straight into it, man. Like, one thing that I believe is that through every set up or success, there's always some sort of a setback. That we endure through, man. And so, just from, I guess, your understanding or from what you memorized through the whole course of your life, man, is there a setback that you went through? And if you do have a setback that you went through, or I guess the biggest setback that you've gone through, is there any chance that you could possibly share about that?
Of course. I don't even know where to start, man. I've had a lot of setbacks. Not to compare my story to anyone else's. Everyone has a different story. I keep having notifications pop up again, man. But so everyone has a different story, and not to compare myself to say, I've gone through pain, whatever. Everyone has gone through pain. Doesn't matter what level it's at. If it was a struggle and a painful experience, then that's what you call, pain and adversity. So for me, I think a massive setback, I would say massive setback for me. Do you mean in terms, I just want to ask you, because again, like I've gone through a lot of setbacks, but just to ask you, do you mean a setback that led to a breakthrough, or a setback that kept happening? Like,
yeah. I think the question that I'm asking, or I guess the root behind the whole question is, what is the biggest, I guess, when it comes to Anver, like what's the biggest thing or biggest like low point? Like I'm talking about, that's probably the best way of saying is like low point. What was the like the lowest point that Anver has gone?
Good. Yeah. So, I just wanted to get more clarity. So definitely the biggest low point that I've gone through was definitely after being in a toxic relationship for about 2.5 years. When that broke up, massive, like really bad depression on my part, just staying in my room, not really wanting to do anything, no motivation. And that was kind of the only thing I was focusing on was that relationship. And I kind of just flushed myself down the drain. There was no personal development there. Like, no self-worth, no self-esteem. So that was the biggest low point and the biggest breakthrough at the same time. So that was the biggest part. And that's what I was going to share before, was going through that toxic relationship, not doing a lot of work on myself, and then stepping through that and, overcoming that, through that depression, in a span of a couple months. And then I made a decision, like a big decision, to say, no, that's enough. I want to develop myself. I want to go deep into personal growth. And then that's what I did. And then I was introduced to a personal development community within network marketing, which was awesome for building my growth, working on my mindset. And what I mean by working on my mindset is, personal development, growth, having mentors, having people to help me, find a purpose for myself. And I would say that was the biggest pain, but also the biggest breakthrough.
Yeah, no, 100%, man, bro. I can fully relate to you, bro. I can fully relate to that, man. Gone through the same thing too, and man, I feel like at the end of the day, bro, through every setback, there's a much more greater setup. Through the moments of your struggles, that you go through, it's like you're in the mess, but it's a message. You know what I mean? Like the mess turns into a message in a way. Like, what you're doing right now, man. Like I believe that someone's going to be listening to this and be like, man, like I can relate to him. I can relate to Anver because I went through the same thing. And if Anver can do it, I can do it. And bro, completely relate to you, man. And so, bro, could you share, man, like how it was, through through the experience of, that toxic relationship and going through that breakup, I know that you mentioned, man, that you're like, you went through, deep depression, you didn't want to, go outside. You wanted, like, you're just like really isolated. Like, man, can you kind of share a bit about the experience behind that, just so people can get an understanding?
Yeah, man. So like I said, because that's what I was focusing on. Just like I was kind of lost, didn't know what I wanted to do, had no direction. I think during the course of the relationship, I went and did a few courses because, again, forced into it just through, society's expectations, things like that, and also the expectations from, parents and things like that. So really lost, man. Did a few courses, find out that's not what I want to do, man. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? Did personal training, enjoyed that for a little bit, but I'm like, nah, this isn't it, So because I had no idea, I felt like I had no purpose, had no idea, felt lost. All I was focusing on was the relationship. So when it broke apart and it became toxic, then that's when I broke apart. You know what I mean? Whatever you attach your worth to, whatever you attach your worth to, and whatever you're prioritizing and focusing on, if that falls apart, then that's just damaging to yourself. You know what I mean? And especially if it's something outside of your control and it's external, as opposed to what's in your control, what's within. Man, it was a very tough time for me, man. A very, very, very tough time. I don't think I've spoken about it, but I think it's the best time now. I'm happy to share. Like, had a lot of suicidal thoughts. Just very, very depressed, man. That was the most, like, the worst stage of my life, where I just felt lost, depressed, had no purpose, was very lost, and just really, really struggled through that, man. And what you said, man, just about being real. The more you can be real, more authentic with people, the more people are going to relate with that. Like, I see a lot of social media, like a lot of people have success and things like that, but they don't know what's behind that, And a lot of people that come to me, oh man, like you've done great and stuff, and it's like it's kind of like the stigma of it. It's like, oh, you flipped overnight kind of thing, but they have no idea what's been happening behind the scenes. They have no idea what I've gone through, and neither vice versa. I don't know what they've gone through. So I think that's an important thing to talk about, man. Like, mental health is a big thing that I talk about, and I think I'm going to be going more into that as well as my coaching thing. But mental health is a big thing, man. And I never wanted to have that stigma of someone that struggled with that, or I thought it was such a cliche, or, to say I'm depressed. I'm like, oh, and then because a few people were like, oh, but everyone's depressed and things like that. But if it's the truth, if it's your story, and you're real with that, I think like, you should own that. That shouldn't be attached to who you are. If you've gone through a depressed time, own that. Like, fucking own that. Like, and I think that's a big part. But it was a very struggling time for me, man. But I'm thankful because of that. It was the fucking most painful, but I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for every challenging time, every adversity. I'm so thankful for that, man. And that's why my perspective is different. And when you shift that perspective, you're able to be grateful for what you have now, as opposed to what you didn't have before. So yeah, man, very struggling time, but I'm definitely grateful for it, man.
Yeah. Come on, bro. Come on, man. All I gotta say, man, is that, bro, I'm actually thankful, bro, that you didn't take the plunge, bro. Like, I'm grateful that you're still alive, man. Why? Because, bro,
Appreciate that,
imagine
man.
if you think about it, man. Like, let's get real here, man. Like, imagine the people that you were working with now. They wouldn't have met Enver. They wouldn't have
Exactly,
had that breakthrough. They wouldn't have been
exactly,
able
man.
to, let's say, for example, there was a person that was wanting to lose 10, 15 kilos. They wouldn't
Yeah,
have been able to without your assistance. And I
yeah,
think a lot of people tend to forget that. And I'm going to be real here, okay? When it comes to you getting into a suicidal, state or wanting to, commit suicide, I'm just going to be real.
yeah,
I've gone through it myself. And the one
yeah,
thing that you do is you don't think about anyone.
yeah.
All right, let's be real here, right? Like when you get into a suicidal thoughts, and by the way, I should give you guys a
It's a
disclaimer out
selfish
there,
thing.
right? I want to give a disclaimer out there. If you are struggling with this, okay, I
Yeah,
encourage you. All right, if you guys are getting offended by what I'm saying and stuff, like I usually don't do this, but I'm gonna say to you guys, I don't mind you guys stopping it and not listening to the end, but this needs to be said. Right,
yeah,
I just need to
100%.
voice this out, fam. So,
Yeah,
so just wanted to put a disclaimer out there. Just to the impact community and your community too. If you are struggling, make sure you guys seek out for some help. Or even that, you guys can message us and we'll direct you guys to where you need to go for your support. But yeah, back to what I was saying. When it comes to getting into a place of having those suicidal thoughts, yeah, like selfishness, like that's the first thing you start thinking
selfishness. Yeah,
about.
yeah,
And so. Yeah, man. Like I totally agree, bro. I totally understand where you're coming from. Why? Because I've gone through it, myself. And yeah, man, it's crazy to see that you don't think about anyone other than yourself. Hey.
mm. Yeah, oh, yeah. So when you go through that period you're talking about, yeah,
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 and
yeah.
and actually talking about that, man, because and it's good you said that disclaimer, man. But I think it is important to be real with even people that are struggling, and being real sometimes is tough. Like the truth is hard to hear, especially when it's run in your fucking face and it's like it triggers you. That's how you know if it triggers you. That's how you know it's the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're getting down to the point of it. But yeah, man, I think, look, man, and again, saying this, I'm very careful with what I'm trying to say, but
Yep.
also with someone that's struggled with it, but only for a period of time. I should mention, and that's why I don't really talk about the suicide thing, but I talk about mental health. But if I'm being real, yeah, there was thoughts of suicide, and yeah, man. So just that thing that I'm talking about, I see a lot of people, and I say this coming from a place of love, coming from a
Yeah, come
place of
on.
I can relate, coming from a place of I know what you're feeling right now. If you are struggling with your mental health, if you're struggling with suicidal things like that, a lot of people they identify themselves as someone who is depressed, and I think that's a problem. If you what you identify with, that's what your behavior links with,
100%.
and it's just a problem. And that's what I realized. For you to get out of that, you got to stop identifying yourself as this person who is depressed. You can have depressed moments, you can have depressed thoughts, you can have suicidal thoughts. It doesn't matter how bad it is, but you are not depressed. You are not a person that's depressed. That's just an identity that you're forming. And that's why every time you feel a little bit sad, you're like, oh, I'm depressed. So that's why I should act in accordance with who I say that I am. So a big thing that I do with my coaching, and I know we're going to talk about this later on, but I think it's important now just to get to people out there is if you're someone out there struggling, like start identifying yourself as someone different, and you can create your identity. You can become who you want to become in line with yourself. I can't become you, man. Like with what you do, I can't become you, but I can become the best version of myself,
Come
right?
on.
And that's why you hear that a lot. You can become the best version of yourself because it's true. I can't become anything in this world. I can only become the best version of me. But for me to step into that, I've got to stop identifying as this low consciousness, living in this bullshit story, living in this conditioning that's holding me back. I've got to break through that. I have to, I can't be living in that identity, right? And no matter what you go through, the growth, and I find this with a lot of people that go through personal development, and I know this with myself as well. It always comes up. If you're doing a lot of personal development, that conditioning of feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're depressed, feeling like it always comes up. And that's why a lot of people, they find that inconsistency. So the only way to get through that is to overwhelm that by your actions, your thoughts, what you say to yourself. Overwhelm that. A lot of affirmations. That's why I go heavy into affirmations, incantations, to change your behavior, change your actions, and change the way you speak to yourself. And I think that's a very important thing, man, because you would have noticed as well, man, when you're depressed, man, you're isolated. You're very
Yeah.
isolated, or if you're not, and especially if you're not hanging around people that are helping you get out of there, they're just feeling sorry for you, and they're just like, oh, you should feel sad. No, you shouldn't be staying in that in that bubble, right? And isolation is the worst thing. Like, especially when you're only listening to your thoughts, judging yourself, giving yourself affirmations, but in a bad way, negative affirmations, and talking down on yourself and things like that. That is just that's why you're building that identity as someone who's struggling.
Yeah.
And then that's why it's just like I talk about the domino effect. It gets worse and worse and worse and worse. You know what I mean? It starts with overwhelm, then anxiety, then stress, then depression, and then it just like suicide. But when you start with that first overwhelm, if you correct it there, you speak to someone, you're around a different energy. You start using words of affirmation to change that thought process. You start using gratitude. That's how it can change. But if you stay in that identity that is not serving you, well, it's just going to get worse and worse. And I think it's important to talk about, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Like, fully on the same page with you, bro. Like, in moments of isolation, or like, sorry, in moments of like, feeling depressed or anxious, like the first thing that we do, usually, like, this is naturally how we do it. Like, if you haven't programmed your brain or programmed yourself in terms of like, sorry, your brain, yeah, and your mind, to have like your certain kind of cues to get out of, the depressing state or your anxiety state, like that's where like you start to isolate yourself. And yeah, man, I've gone through that myself, and I'm not like saying this in like a very cocky way. It's like, no, I'm actually saying in a confident way, because I know, right? I know how it is to be in that state. I'll never forget there was one time where I was talking to, I was talking to one of the boys, and he said to me, "Oh no, you don't know what I'm going through." And I was like, "Yes, I don't know what you're going through, right? But I've gone through a similar path like you. But hey, allow me to walk with you. Allow me to jump along your journey and at least hear you out." And I feel like for me, this is what I do, like to a lot of the people that I connect with. It's just like, let me just hear you out. Let me just hear you out. Let me just hear what's going on. Why? Because I believe that majority of the people that you've been connecting with have not been listening to you.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't been hearing you out. It's like, ask him, all right, tell me, what's the last thing I said in the last minute? If they can't recall it, then you already know they're not listening to you, right? But allow me. It's like, I'm giving you the permission to share so that I can hear you out. And the only reason why I do that is because that is the person that I needed. You know what I mean? It was the person that I needed through my state of depression and, feeling anxious. But another thing I do want to mention too, man, is what you're talking about in terms of identity. It's an identity that we place. And one of the thoughts I've been having lately is when people get diagnosed, right, for a certain thing, it's like, as much as they're giving them the diagnosis, the first thing that they're doing is saying, you have ... And correct. So that's where the identity comes in.
That's where the problem is.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And even in talking about that, man, like and talking about like people express, like that is the first thing. And I think that is so important, man. Like expression and a checking process that I have kind of involves that. But then that's only the first step, right? You can't just express and then just keep talking about how you're feeling and then decide not to do anything from then on. And I understand, like, no matter what you're going through, if a lot of people are in that victim state, they think that life is happening to them, like, and like they're the only person that's unlucky and all these things, then they're complaining. And I completely understand that because I've been there, like, and that's all you want to do. You want to just complain, and because it's a lot easier to complain than actually make a difference and take responsibility of where your life is right now. So I think that is the first step, to express, talk about what you're going through, but then also take responsibility and say, fuck, this is where I'm at. This is where my life is. I can't do much about it. I can only control what I can control, but it's also out of my control to just change my situation in a couple minutes or you can only change your state in a couple of minutes. And that's actually the next step, which is to change how you're feeling and your emotional state by gratitude, affirmations, incantation, all these different things that you can do to change the state that you're in, right? And that's an important thing, because people, you can change a state within like a matter of seconds, a matter of minutes. And a lot of these routines, rituals, that's what I teach, that you can do daily. It's kind of like a superpower that you can tap into. It's like a power inside you can tap into. But if you're not tapping into that, you're in that low consciousness, low vibration energy. And I think we all get there. We all get there. I don't know about you, man, but sometimes I'm there. Like I was there like last week, but I didn't feel like doing stuff. But I was able to change it through a routine that I do. You know what I mean? And that's why the habits are there for you to do daily, day in, day out. That's why I always say success is not owned. It's the rent is due every day. You got to be on top of your health, mental health, and getting after your goals every single day, and just stay on top of that through routines, rituals. That's the biggest way that I build that, through the routines, rituals that I teach. But yeah, that's a very important thing to know.
Yeah, no, legit, man. Like that is something that a lot of people, like, even, bro, I'm like looking at myself now to where I was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, bro, a completely different person. And it was just simply focusing on, I'm not saying focusing on me in terms of being selfish, no, focusing on me because I need to be doing a bit of self-love, self-care. I think a lot of people, they get it too, bro, they what they do is they get it like too mixed in together. It's like, no, you're selfish because you're not wanting to come out. It's like, no, I'm not selfish. I just need to take care of myself. It's like, how can I take care of you or even hear you out when I'm not even, looking after myself? And hey, let's be real here, right? That's one of the underlying factors behind, why mental health exists. It's because a lot of people aren't really looking after themselves. They're not looking after, they're not taking care of themselves, and instead they're taking care of other people before they even focus on themselves. Is that something that you can relate to? Oh,
that is the truth right there. And one of the truths that when I talk to people, it really triggers them, like, oh, but I have, and again, not talking in anyone in particular if you're listening to this, but I deal with like single moms, things like that. And I understand, like, my mom's a single mom. I kind of understand it that way, and not saying, oh, whoa, wow, someone was calling me. So that's the bad thing about being on my phone, but that's all good. Did the camera come off?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all good, man. It's all good, bro.
No stress, brother. So yeah, I was just talking about a big thing that I see with single moms or people that have kids or relationships is they're putting others before themselves.
Yep.
And then you don't fill up your cup. You don't fill up your energy. You don't fill up that self-love, right? Even as a guy, if you're a guy right there watching right now, self-love is important, guys, or like you guys like to talk about empowerment and that mental health. So they don't fill up their energy, or they don't fill up their cup first thing in the morning. So when you go out throughout the day, you're focusing on your kids, you're focusing on your relationship, and then there's one part missing, which is the most important part, and that's yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not acting with accordance of filling up your cup. Therefore, you're not able to be there 100% for others. And it actually works in reverse. Like, you're thinking, I've got to put others before myself. But if you don't put yourself before others, you're not actually doing the best for that relationship. It's actually doing, impacting that relationship in a negative way. And especially having kids, you want to be a role model for your kids. You want to inspire them by putting yourself first, putting your health first, putting your goals first, and then looking after them in a way where the energy, the love is just overflowing. And you're just able to help them through that way. And you can see the difference between people that do that and don't do that. I see it a lot, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Like, bro, I fully agree. Like, what you're mentioning, especially with the single moms, or just anyone actually, like just anyone out there that is utilizing this thing called excuses, like they've got the biggest excuse. And it's crazy. You know why, man? Because the one thing that we can both relate to is that we're both fatherless kids. right?
Yeah.
We're like we grew up as a fatherless child, which means that when we talk to someone, right, especially to the high school kids, if you ever go into high schools and you're sharing about what you do and your story, like there's gonna be kids saying, "Oh, but I'm a fatherless kid. I don't have a father." It's like, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you gonna put that? Are you gonna put that card on me? Why? Because I'm legit in a similar page to you." Right. What's the
Yeah.
one thing that we can relate to other than struggles is the fact that we're actually fatherless kids, and so, right, like I look at a lot of people and it's like I'm telling you, it's your belief systems, it's your BS,
Yeah.
it's the BS that you're talking to yourself about.
Yeah. Definitely,
But
man.
man, I got
Definitely.
a question, bro. I got a question for you, and it's actually about like how previously you're talking about the biggest setback, or I guess the low point that you had in your life. In terms of that toxic relationship, bro, is there is there any, lessons that you had learned from that relationship that you can possibly share to the people listening?
Biggest lesson would be that kind of just what I spoke about. It's putting yourself first and prioritizing your needs, prioritizing your goals, prioritizing your energy and that self-love before anything else. Yeah, and this is a big thing why I talk about morning routines and why they're so important, you know? But yeah, man, it would be that was a massive learning that I learned. And that's what actual personal development is. Yeah, all those areas of your life. But yeah, man, another learning would be obviously from what experiences in relationships, you learn how the next one, you want it to be a lot different, and you're very careful of your energy, who you spend time with, because it does impact you. Yeah, so I think the biggest learning would be uh, another big learning would be your environment, who you're spending time with, because it impacts your energy, even subconsciously. Like,
Yeah,
um, I know, like one of my mentors, like he kind of spoke about was, your mate could be even saying something that is like, let's say if you're wanting to go to a personal development workshop, you're wanting to do something like that, an event where you're growing yourself, and they could just say something simple like, "Oh no, I'd rather you just do something else," and that definitely hits your subconscious, because then you're like, okay, well maybe me working on myself, maybe I'm a weirdo for doing things that's outside of society, like the norm of what people do, going on the weekend, going clubbing, drinking, all those things. For me, doing that type of stuff is different. So if you're hanging around people that just go that way, and you spend time around people like that, well, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend time around. So
yeah.
yeah, man, a big learning was you got to be careful of who you spend time with and your environment.
Yeah, 100%. And so, I just want to clarify, bro. So, I guess to just like niche it down, it would be, focusing on you. Like doing your self care, making sure that you're taking care of yourself, and then take care of others. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not the fact that we're getting rid of you or getting rid of others. It's like no, no, no. We're focusing on us first, and then
yeah,
we're focusing on you. Why? Because we understand
yeah,
that we need to first take care of ourselves. And if we're not, as you mentioned about filling your cup, if we're not filling our cup, how do we expect to fill like others with an empty cup? Like it's
yeah,
funny because it's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple, but when you're isolated, yeah, not easy. It's not easy to actually hear that or see that. Why? Because we're in that negative state. You're talking about
mm,
being like at that low point or like your low vibration,
mm,
as you're talking about too. um the reason why like you can't really see, I guess, the light or see the I guess the light at the end of the tunnel, it's because you're at that low state.
yeah, 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 yeah. I agree, man. Like it's hard to see like life different when you're in that state, and that's a big thing. Yeah, so especially when people make decisions in that state, and say if you have the opportunity where someone reaches out to you and be like, I would love to help you and do this for you because I see where you're at now, and you're not really happy with your situation. You made that clear, and blah blah blah. And a lot of the times, if they're in that state, like they choose not to go, um, they choose not to, make that decision to change their life because they're in that state, because they're in that low state, and they believe in that state. It is very damaging to a lot of people. You know what I mean? I think that's very important to know, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no,
But to get out of
100%.
that, it's very important, man. That's why every time I talk to someone, I want to I want to talk on a positive note. So I just want to talk like that. I want to make my message clear. Every time I talk to someone, it is about getting them out of that state. So I'm like, man, what's up, man? Like, what are you grateful for right now? And then no matter where they are right now, how low they're thinking, it's about just getting them out of it. Right? They might slowly come back to it, but then I get them out of it again. And yeah, I think that's important, man. Like, what are you grateful for? What can you say about yourself that you love about yourself? What achievements have you achieved, and all these things? Because man, the reality is a lot of people are too hard on themselves, and that's the biggest kind of thing that I'm gonna be talking about a lot and doing a lot of videos on. It's the judgment that people place on themselves. People being too hard on themselves, and in every single sense, even in a lot of personal development. A lot of people that do personal development, they're very hard on themselves. Like, I got to achieve this. I've got to keep learning. I've got to keep doing this. And then it's like, but what about executing on the game plan? What about building your dream business that you said you were going to do? And it's like, no, I've got to keep learning this. I've got to keep learning. But why? Why? Because you want it to be perfect. Because it needs to be perfect for you before. Yeah. So like, people just judge themselves. They compare themselves to other successful entrepreneurs, and they're like, oh, I've got to be like this person. I've got to be like this person. And one of my favorite quotes is, I know you're going to talk about the message at the end of the video, but one of my favorite quotes is that one of my mentors talks about is, you can never fail at being yourself. And just hearing that, I don't know, it might not click for a lot of people, but for me, it clicked. You can never fail at being yourself. If you want to do business, if you want to do whatever you want to do, you can never fail, because say if that business doesn't work out, then that means it wasn't aligned with what you were meant to do anyway. Because maybe you didn't enjoy it enough for you to work hard and actually go and double down on the business, because, you know, whatever you were doing, it wasn't in line with your mission, because it didn't work out. So you can never fail at being yourself. So maybe that wasn't made for you. Maybe that 9-to-5 job that you hate, like, but maybe you're wanting to get a promotion or whatever, and it's not working out. Maybe that's not made for you, because it's not in line with what you enjoy, with your higher self. It's not in line with what was made for you. You know, I don't know if there's a lot of spiritual people out there, but it wasn't in line with what the universe wanted for you. So I think, you can never fail at being yourself, man. And that's the biggest thing I've realized with whatever I try to do. Try to be creative. I try to just be authentic with people. Even though for a lot of years I struggled with that, you know, it can be struggling being real with people about your pain or what you've gone through. And judgment was a big thing for me, caring about people's judgment. But if you're just yourself and you're just the fullest expression of that, then you can never fail at just being that. I think that's very true.
Yeah, bro. Just the fact that you mentioned that, in terms of like, you can never fail at being yourself. I say to a lot of people, it's like, there is no one like you, right? There is no one exactly like you. Like, in this whole world, there is only one you. So it's crazy, right? Like, you know, when it comes to like branding yourself, that is probably the best business that you can be. Is your own brand. Why? Because, bro, there's no one else like you. Like, you can, let's say, for example, like, you can do the coaching, you know, you can be a coach, you can be a PT stuff, but the one person that no one else can copy is you. Like, they can try, man. Like, I can get a mustache like you, bro. You know, I can get like your nice, like, muscular body, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, I can get all that, but then I'm never going to be like you. Like, we're all unique in every way. And I think that's something that will bring someone like into the light. It's just understanding, bro, like, that at the end of the day, like, there is no one like you, and just be you, right? Just be you.
It's funny, man, because it sounds so cliche, man, but it's fucking true, isn't it, bro? Like, it's so true. And I'll just say, from my experience, I spent years trying to be someone, like, I had this this person, like, this famous this boxer, professional boxer that I want to be like. So I thought me being a professional boxer was going to do that. And I love boxing, but it's not my truth. It's not my purpose. It's not what actually fills me up, you know, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes with that and so forth. But that's not in line with me, but it looked cool for me. You know, it looked cool being that. And, but yeah, man, that was for that person, but it's for me. It's actually helping people and coaching people, helping people break through, step into their purpose, and actually go after their dream life. So that's for me. but it's not going to work for a lot of people. And, you can only be yourself, man, 100%.
Yeah, no, legit, man. Legit, bro. And so, yeah, man, bro, I'm actually really enjoying this podcast, man. Like, I'm
Legit,
really
brother.
enjoying it. Like for me, I love talking about things that matter. And what matters is what we're talking about. What everyone's talking about COVID, although yes, yeah, COVID happened, people in lockdown, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But like let's look at the underlying factors behind, COVID and what's happening to other people. It's like, what about the people out there that are isolated? It's like, who's helping them, and things like that.
Yeah.
And so, I already believe right now that whoever's listening to this, like, are getting encouraged by it. Why? Because we're talking about things that matter. And so, like the next stage, I want to just talk briefly before we get into talking about what you're doing, man. Is I was listening to your setback, and you were talking about the toxic relationship that you're in, and then you shared a bit about the breakthrough that you had. But could we kind of get into the place of that breakthrough that Anver experienced? Like, could you kind of take us back to that exact moment, or let's say a moment in time where Anver had finally break through and became the person that he is now?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that is important, and that's why one of the many things that I do within my business, my coaching, is having a breakthrough call with someone where a lot of things that we talked about today, it's getting all the truth on the table, and I had to be truthful for myself. I wasn't working on myself. I wasn't doing personal development. I was struggling. I did not like what I saw, like physically, even though I was doing boxing, whatever, it didn't fix anything like of what I felt inside. Like, just not confident, struggled with speaking in front of groups and all that. So I just made a decision to dive deep into personal development, meaning learning, mentoring, and doing whatever I had to do to grow. Like, obviously got into incredible shape, which was a big part of it, but that only represented the growth that was happening in my mind
100%.
And the reading that I was doing, the mentoring that I was having, and the people that I was helping as well, with doing that personal development business. So yeah, man. But if it was just one thing that created that breakthrough, was made the decision. Like, I made the decision, and I think that's just the key, man. Like, I don't know how to explain that even more, but because it sounds like it's not overnight success, because I'm still going through the grind. Like, but it is. I made the decision to go in at all costs. You know what I mean? And I think when people make that decision, whether knowing or not knowing, like, even if you're still going to go through challenges. Yeah, I'm not saying you're still going to go through challenges even more. When you made that decision, especially going into something that's very hard, if it's business or whatever, you're going to go through challenges. But when you make that decision to go in all in, no matter what, and just say, fuck it, I'm going to just do what I want to do, and just like fucking do it. And then things just happen with accordance with that. But if you fight and if you're fearful and you're like, you don't want to keep going, then that's when the setbacks happen, and then you keep getting setback. But when you keep going and just putting one step in front of the other, small success after small success, just build those small wins daily, weekly, keep working on yourself, then that's when you achieve those goals, like just that consistency. But it all happens through making that decision. Yeah.
Bro, honestly, man, like you just say, man, just making the decision, bro, it makes sense. It makes sense as to where you are now because you actually made the decision. I reckon there's someone probably listening to this right now or watching this through our YouTube channel that is probably saying to themselves, man, that's probably the one I needed. I just needed to know that I just need to make a decision. One thing I believe in, man, is a decision is better than no decision at all. Like, you just making a decision. It's funny because I tell people, like, they're like, I don't know if I should do it. It's like, make a decision. It's either you want to do it or not. Just make it. Why? Because I was reading. Have you read Think and Grow Rich at all?
Yeah. That was the first one that I read.
Book. So in the book, it talks about the three enemies. The three enemies that will clear you out. And one of them is actually indecision, right? Not actually making a decision is actually going to clear you out. Like, that's one of the three enemies, that's going to clear you out. The other two being fear, and the other one being doubt. And it's crazy because you're talking about the fear, and you're talking about, the indecision, and it makes so much sense. Like, especially when you're at a low point in your life, when you're at a low point in your life, one of the things that you're struggling with is making decisions. Making that decision. Oh, I'm not too sure if I should do this, or you know what, I don't know if I should go outside. And then that's when fear starts to come in. Like you start to get a bit skeptical, or start getting scared. And it's cool, man. Like, bro, I really appreciate you, man, sharing about this, because people need to hear this. That it's really simple. It's a really simple thing. Like let's be real here. I reckon that there's an 11-year-old. Right, there's probably an 11-year-old that can do the same thing. The only difference is our mindset. And that's something that I believe that we're going to talk in later on. But yeah, man, is that something that you can agree with?
Oh, definitely, man. But it's just so true, man. I don't. The only difference, man, like this is something that, okay, if I put myself in a position where I used to think where people were just made to be successful and I'm not meant to be that way, it's not true. Man, it's not true. There's nothing special. No, nothing against you, bro, but there's nothing special about you other than you.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm telling. No, legit. He's on point.
And me too.
Yeah, legit.
And there's nothing special about me. I don't think there's anything special about me other than just being myself, and then just deciding to go after what I want to do, go after my dreams, help people, and do what I want to do, and have just being free to do that. There's nothing different. And I used to think that there was. The only difference, if there was a key difference, is the growth and the time that they've had that I've had that growth. If someone just starting on day one decide to work on themselves, personal growth, I've just done that for a period of time. That's the only difference. They're on day one, I'm on day like whatever, like 1,000 or whatever, And then Tony Robbins is on day like 10,000,
Legit.
That's how I see it. There's just a difference, but there's not a massive difference as in you're not destined to do this or whatever. You're only destined to do what you want to do in line with yourself, right? I think that was a bit confusing, but what I mean is you're destined to really, because I think a lot of people, like, they have something inside of them that wants to come out, but it's just what holds that down is that fear of judgment, that fear of failure, that fear, even a fear of success. The responsibility that comes with having success. Like, if you can't hold space for that, if you haven't grown enough for that, then you won't be able to handle it. Like, and that's a big thing to understand as well. But there's no difference, man. There's no difference. That's why you see a lot of kids like doing e-commerce and shit. I'm like, that kid's like 10 years old. He's like selling all this stuff and he's like making so much a month, whatever, more than 20K a month. I'm like, that's crazy. But there's no difference between him or any other kid his age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing to notice. Like, there's not a big difference other than just the willing to put in those steps to get that success, to achieve that goal.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And so, but what we're gonna do now, man, okay, is like, but we shared a bit, like, a bit about your story and a bit about, the breakthrough that you happened, because, one of the whys behind the reason why I love doing this, man, is because I want people to know who you are first. I want people to know who you are in terms of your identity and, what you've gone through before even sharing about what you're doing. Because, man, people don't realize that it's the story that we go through that makes us who we are now. It's like the story, like my story, like, and I think it's something that you can relate to. Like, the reason why I have a passion on doing podcasting is because I had a stuttering problem when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Like, I had a stuttering problem, or, for other people that have like an image problem, like I had a self-image problem growing up. And it's like, okay, why do I do what I do now? It's because I understand the pain, right? But not only do I understand the pain, but I've gone through the breakthrough. And so I get to help other people go through that breakthrough too. And so, that was the whole purpose behind getting on and also sharing your story. But now we get to come to the best part of the podcast, where we get to actually, hear more about what you're doing, man. And so, man, could you kind of share to the people out there that are listening, especially to our, impact community that is listening to this right now, pretty much what you do, man?
Yeah, bro. So, like I said at the start, kind of just going back on that, performance coaching, helping people executing on the action is the most important part. Breaking through a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of bullshit stories that people have.
Yeah.
And if that triggered you guys, then that's good. Just breaking through limiting beliefs, bullshit stories, fear, judgment, all those things holding people back to execute on the game plan. And that's usually I work with a lot of people that are wanting to get in incredible shape, as I've done the same. I've helped people lost like 40 kilos in 4 months, helped people lose 10 kilos in 6 weeks. But like, it's all about just helping people to become the best version of themselves in line with what they want and themselves. So, and then also helping people just start their dream business and without those things holding them back, man. So that's a big thing that I do help people break through. But yeah, man, that's what I'm doing. Currently working a lot of workshops at the moment that I'll be doing, especially into 2021. But got a workshop this Saturday. This will be out Monday. So a lot of you guys want to see this down here in Melbourne. Running down a workshop, so it's online workshop on Saturday. Warrior mindset workshop, helping a lot of people break through limiting beliefs, all those things that I spoke about. And then on the following weekend, I'll be also doing things like optimal health and boxing workshop as well. So I kind of work with those two things as well. But yeah, man, that's what I'm doing massively at the moment. Running events in Melbourne. I'm running events down in Melbourne. So seminar events, Melbourne, Sydney, and Queensland in 2021. Never have done that before, so I'm fucking super excited, bro. So anyone that's, in those areas, Sydney, Queensland, Melbourne, feel free to reach out. It'd be awesome to connect with you if you want to know more information about that. Also, since I'm fucking excited and what we talked about today, this was an awesome podcast, man. Honestly, man, thanks for having me on. I'm giving away 5 free breakthrough sessions for anyone out there wanting to really breakthrough, especially heading into 2021. Perfect time, guys. Let's execute, and feel free to message me, man. I think you're going to plug through that handle. So you're going to put my details below. And I'm excited to connect with anyone out there as well.
Yeah, sweet as, man. So if you guys are wanting, to jump on into those, he's actually giving out, not only just his time, but he's also giving out, value. This is like, 3 to 4 or even like 6, 6 years worth of, I guess, the breakthrough, like his story. Think about it, his story. He shared about his story and the breakthrough that he's gone through, and that could potentially be you. You can be that.
I love how you said that too, bro. It's like, I don't know, because obviously you have your coaching clients as well, and then I have my coaching clients as well. And biggest thing is like of what they're getting is everything in my mind for the last 15 years, but also the last 6 years of growth in a span of a short like 3 months. My program is 12 weeks, 3 months, and they're getting that in a short span of 3 months to really break through and do what they have to do and go after their dream life, man. So that's important that you said that. And that's the power of coaching, man, as you would know, being an awesome coach yourself.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And so, man, I actually got a question for you, man. And I think this would be something that a lot of people would want to know, man, is, bro, what's the vision, man? Like, what's the vision, bro? I love listening to people's vision, but, bro, what's the vision for Anver moving on?
Man, yep. So currently working with men as long as women, as well as women, as long as women. So currently working with men and women at the moment. But I'm wanting to, the massive vision is I want to be, and I am putting this out there because, I believe in just fucking going for the stars, man. Like,
come on.
Like my mentor always says, you're only going to reach your wildest expectations. And I love that quote, just going big. The bigger you go, the bigger you're going to reach. So I want to be the best men's performance coach in Australia. That's what I'm heading for. So I'm going to be doing events all around Australia. That's the plan for me. Just helping people execute, break through everything that's holding them back. Because currently at the moment, if you have a goal right now and you're not executing on that, then that means there's something holding you back. And whether if you're wanting to achieve that right now or years from now, the reality is you can achieve it now. And it's just about bringing that to the present right now and not waiting, not procrastinating, because, and you'll know this as well, man, 2020 was pretty a shit story. It was a shit, like a lot of good things happened, but for a lot of people, a lot of people complaining, it didn't go according to plan. So for a lot of people wanting to step up in 2021, they're going to have to make that decision to really, step up right now. And you would know that being a coach as well, man. But yeah, that's the vision for myself, man. I'm wanting to impact millions of people all across Australia and the world through online events and in-person events as well, man. So super excited for that, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, bro. And that's the reason why I asked, man. That's the reason why I asked is because I'm like, man, let's get this belief system running. Hey, let's get our state in. Bro, I love it, man. And even that, man, I love seeing people win too. You know, I love seeing people win, bro, and I want to see you win, man. I want to see, you know, in a few years' time, you know, you like me, like instead of you coming to me, I'm coming to you, man. Like that's the
bro.
you know, that's the type of vision.
I'll be starting my podcast soon, bro. So I would fucking love to have you on. Like you'll be one of my first guests, or you know, the guest in the future. I would love to have you on either way, brother. So I'll be starting my podcast. Super excited for that. And I just wanted to talk about just one thing, man. I know you spoke about that vision, and one important thing about me the last 6 years that I've realized is I'm not attached to that vision. Like I'm just here to fucking serve, even if it's just one person or two people. I'm here to serve and help people. It doesn't matter, like that number of people that I want to help. That doesn't, identify with me. That's just me aiming for those stars. But I don't attach myself to that vision, man. It's just aiming bigger and bigger and bigger. But staying present, man. Building, staying patient, grinding and working like I should, man. So, man, it's just going to build slowly, but super excited for what's to come, brother. So, yeah.
Yeah, sweet, man, sweet. And so, I guess this is my last question before we get into our last segment or little segment that we have here. But man, what's the next step from here, man? Like, what's the next step? I know you're talking about your events, but like, what's going on right now in terms of your world?
Yeah, man. So, next step will be definitely like this Saturday, which is already past week because this podcast come on Monday. Got an event, workshop this Saturday. But that's just a start. Like I'm going to be doing events and workshops every single week, especially heading into 21. I know it's time for me to step up, and so that's why I'm just doing what I have to do every single week. There's going to be an event for me, workshop, online seminar, masterclass, whatever it is. There's going to be an event happening every single week, especially at the start of 2021 and the end of this year. So that's what's happening at the moment. And then. Those in-person events in Sydney and Queensland is going to happen 12 weeks apart. But yeah, the start of 2021 is going to be big, and I've never experienced that before. And, you know, stepping into the unknown, that's new for me. Oh, and a big thing that I haven't spoke about is I'm going to be doing a lot of fear challenges, like ranting in public, doing a lot of things like that to step out of my comfort zone, which I have done, but haven't recorded it before. So I'm looking forward to starting a YouTube channel, man. So that's going to be a new thing for me, brother.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, no, bro, appreciate it, man. Appreciate you sharing. It'd be cool to, watch back, and I'm speaking speaking to existence right now. Like it'd be good to, watch back, and even I just listen to this small portion of the podcast, just like, just the portion that you just mentioned about, and just listening and be like, hey man, I've done it. Like that's the greatest feeling, hey. The greatest feeling is just looking back, being like, hey, what I said has actually come into fruition. And so, yeah, man, I'm excited for you, bro. I'm excited to see, where Anver goes from here. But yeah, man, I guess the last thing I'm going to do before we wrap up this podcast episode is, one of the things that I love doing is, allowing the special guest to, finish off with like, what I would say the sprinkle on the top, on the cake, kind of thing. And bro, I know that, throughout this whole, podcast episode, you shared your story, understanding that, man, the one thing that we relate to isn't just, struggles, but it's also being fatherless. And, hearing that, man, makes me, a lot more a lot more connected, because we both can relate to that. And then from that, talking about, the biggest, low point that you went through, which is, your toxic relationship that you went through. And then just seeing how personal development for you, man, was the defining factor for you to say, it's time for me to break out, to the point where you are here, sitting down as a coach, as you're going to be, I'm not going to say now, but no, I'm not saying that you're not now, but you are going to be, one of the greatest men performance experts out there in Australia. And I'm speaking that into existence. Why? Because I believe that's going to happen as you continue to do your work, man. But, bro, is there any chance, man, that you could potentially, that you can, share just an encouragement for those out there that are listening?
Bro, of course, man. Of course I can. And this is what I would say to you. If you're listening right now, doesn't matter who you are, if you have a level of success, if you don't, or you don't think you do, it's just understanding right now where you're at right now. If you don't feel like you're enough, that's not true. You're fucking enough. If you have a goal, if you have something that you want to achieve, if you want to be growing yourself massively, if you're not happy right now and you want to feel fulfilled, you want to be happy, you you want to grow yourself, you want to start your dream business, you want to get in incredible shape, then it's already there. You just have to step into it and understand that you're enough. Stop judging yourself. Stop judging yourself. Understand that you're enough. You've heard a little bit about my story, my journey, and about you as well. You've gone through depression. I've gone through depression. I've gone through tough times. Doesn't matter what you've gone through. You can break through out of there. Just make that decision to say, enough is enough. I'm done living in this low consciousness. I want to step up for myself and be happy with who I am, and make that decision because it is possible. So that's my
sweet.
message.
Yeah, sweet, man. I'm fully like pumped, bro. And it's like close to 5 p.m. and I'm keen, bro. I'm actually keen for the next day, man. Just listening to that.
I love the energy, brother.
Oh man, nah, bro. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate it, bro. Thank you, man, for taking out your time. I know that you do have a busy schedule, and with your work and stuff. And I guess, bro, knowing that we're ending it off right now, man. Let's say, for example, there are people out there that are wanting to connect or get to know more, or that are potentially wanting to be a part of that workshops that you're going to be, doing not just for now, but also into the new year. What's the best way that they can connect with you?
Yeah, so I mostly go through Instagram. Use Facebook as well, but mostly go through Instagram, guys. Just Anver Meunier Coaching. So Anver Meunier Coaching. So I think he's going to put the plug down below. But mostly go through Instagram, and I'm doing a lot of workshops for free, man. I want to help people step up, and just show up as their best selves right now, especially heading into the new year. And that's my biggest vision for myself. I want to create massive impact, just like this podcast. And yeah, so I'm doing a lot of free online workshops at the moment, guys, doing free breakthrough sessions. So definitely feel free to reach out if you're wanting more info or just whatever. If you want to have a chat, I'm there for you. So it'll be awesome to connect with you guys.
Yeah. Sweet. And so for those out there that are listening to this, through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you guys check out Instagram, because he'll be featured on there. He'll be promoted on there, but he'll also be on our following list if you can't find it. If you can't find the post, if this is like 5-10 years later when you guys are listening to this, just check through our following, because we will, we as part of the Impact Podcast Show will be following him and on his journey. But if you're watching this through YouTube, right? If you're watching this through YouTube, make sure you guys like this video, comment any thoughts, but most importantly, subscribe. But his handles, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever, it will all be in the links down below. So make sure that you guys check it out there, and that will be cool. But other than that, that is it, guys. That is all that we got. Anver, thank you so much, man.
No worries, brother. Pleasure, man. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. But yeah, man, appreciate you, bro. Thank you to everyone that's watching and tuning into through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you guys in the next one.